If you've already switched from ChatGPT to Claude, welcome to the club. However, you're probably still missing its best part. If you haven't though, here's why you can't ignore it anymore. Turns out, Claude outgrew ChatGPT so fast, it wasn't even close. Now, here's the catch. Claude still barely sends any traffic. Next to ChatGPT, it's so tiny that you think you could just write it off. But you can't, because the growth isn't even the real story. The real story is what caused it, as well as what it's doing to AI visibility. In this video, I'll show you what the data says and why it happened, the critical difference between Claude and ChatGPT, and how you need to rewire your AI visibility thinking and SEO workflow to adapt. The story behind Claude's growth is too good to skip past. From January to April 2026, Claude's referral traffic grew by almost 4 times, not randomly. Let me take you back to late January. Reports start coming out that OpenAI is testing ads inside ChatGPT. At first, people are kind of like, okay, whatever, it's just a test. Then, February comes around. It stops being a rumor. Ads are live. If you're on the free or go plan, you're seeing them. Within a week, people are taking screenshots and posting them everywhere. The overall vibe is just not great. For SEOs, this wasn't just about ads. It was about incentives. Once a platform starts monetizing intention, the goal shifts from giving the best answer to keeping users engaged. If sponsored answers start appearing next to organic recommendations, what does that do to the citations you've spent time trying to earn? What does that do to trust? That question spread fast. Anthropic answered it in the loudest way possible. A Super Bowl ad. The one that showed an AI interrupting someone's advice to pitch them shoe inserts, then ended with ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude. Boy, did it work. That spot alone skyrocketed Claude from number 41 to number 7 on the App Store in a matter of days. However, the ad was just the loud part. In the same window, Anthropic drew a hard line too. Claude will not be used for mass surveillance of Americans, not for autonomous weapons. No exceptions. The King's Gambit. This means that you've got 2 companies making 2 very different moves at the exact same time. One is building an ad business. The other is drawing a line in the sand. The bottom line is that people noticed. By early March, Claude's daily active users hit 11.3 million. That's up 183% since January. Plus, it wasn't just regular users either. By June 2026, according to RAMP, over 70% of organizations using generative AI were on Anthropic. A year earlier, it was 46%. When you see that almost 4-fold jump in our data, with the steepest single month being that March spike, it makes total sense. People who switched weren't just looking for a better chat experience. They were developers, analysts, SEOs, and content teams. People building things. People with real workflows. However, this thing with ads was the final straw. The truth is, these people had been fed up with a bunch of smaller things that had been quietly adding up for months. Now, what does that actually mean for you? Well, before you can answer that, let's get one thing straight. People treat Claude and ChatGPT like the same tool, as in, whatever, just pick your favorite. They are not the same tool. In short, when you need a quick answer, a fast lookup, a summary, something brainstormed in 30 seconds, that's ChatGPT territory. It's quick and it's broad. However, when you need to write the actual article, build the automation, work across your files, or run the same process every week without it falling apart, that's where Claude pulls ahead. By the way, people have lately been slamming into the limits of ChatGPT on exactly that kind of work. You give it your tone and your formatting, but it's still packed with the same generic AI words. Your context disappears between sessions. Your instructions don't stick. The analysis stays surface level. Plus, when you consider that it's basically a chat window, you actually end up doing all the real work yourself. That frustration is why your YouTube feed is suddenly full of why I switched from ChatGPT videos. This is a big wave of people complaining. Let me be honest, I am not telling you to delete ChatGPT. It's still great for many different things. The mistake never was using ChatGPT. The mistake is using one tool for every single job. Meanwhile, Claude is built for work. You give it a real task and it stays on it until it's done. You can see that in what Anthropic keeps shipping. Claude Code, Co-work, skills, life artifacts, design. None of that is about answering questions faster. Let me quickly show you a few use cases of how people are actually using both today. As for the first use case, for instance, there's a content workflow going around where ChatGPT writes the outline and then Claude writes the full article. They're using ChatGPT to think fast and Claude to do the heavy lifting. Still different jobs. However, it's not just about content. People are building their first apps with Claude Code without any engineering background. Lead magnets that let prospects check their AI visibility on the spot. Automated audit decks instead of building them by hand before every pitch. Monthly client reports that just generate themselves. We actually built all three of these. Save this video to your watch later because you'll want to come back and copy them. Another example is live SEO dashboards that pull your real search data and update on their own. Claude literally just shipped this inside Co-work. People pulling content ideas straight out of their own Claude Code sessions. Now, here's the part that actually matters for you as an SEO. If Claude is where people currently do their real work, then everything you thought about AI visibility just changed. Again, let's be real. As a traffic source, Claude is still tiny, about 1.4% of AI traffic. ChatGPT is around 78%. That means if you're waiting on Claude to send you a flood of clicks, you'll be waiting a long time. That's kind of the whole point. Getting mentioned inside Claude might not even be the real goal anymore. The real question is whether Claude can actually pull in your data and use it while someone's working. In fact, most SEOs have no idea this shift has already happened. The thing that made it fully possible has a name, MCP. It lets a tool plug its live data straight into Claude, meaning that instead of Claude guessing or pulling something stale from training data, it reaches into a real source, grabs current data, and uses it right there in your workflow. On top of that, this is already happening way beyond SEO. Claude can connect to booking for hotels, TripAdvisor for trips, Instacart for groceries. That means when someone's planning or comparing or buying, those companies aren't just hoping to get mentioned. Their data is the thing doing the work. Now, bring that back to SEO. SEO Ranking has an MCP that plugs its SEO and GEO data straight into Claude. Keyword data, backlinks, audits, AI search visibility, one URL to connect. For instance, I can just ask, show me the organic and paid search stats for this domain in the US, and Claude pulls the live data and builds an interactive dashboard right in the chat. It actually goes even further than dashboards. With skills, you can turn that same data into finished work, a writer-ready content brief, an AI search share of voice report across the most popular AI engines, a backlink gap analysis that finds who linked to your competitors, but not to you. Skills are a whole topic on their own, which is exactly why we made a full video on how they work and which ones we actually use for SEO at SEO Ranking. It's linked below. Now, if you also run social analytics, this part's for you. Plannable, our sister product, has its own MCP, same setup as SEO Ranking. You paste one URL and Claude can reach into your posts, your approvals, and your analytics. For example, you can ask it to pull last month's analytics for a client and build a summary you can share. It writes the report straight from your real social numbers. The bottom line is that both SEO and social analytics data can sit in the same AI assistant. Here's the takeaway. In a world where people work inside AI, being visible isn't about chasing citations everywhere. Sometimes it's about being connected, being the data Claude reaches for when there's real work to do. Finally, let me walk you through a few specific moves that put you on the right side of this shift. First move, stop defaulting. Match the tool to the task. Quick answer, that's ChatGPT. Real work, the kind that has steps and has to hold together, that's Claude. Move 2, take one thing you do by hand every week and move it into Claude. Just one. A content brief, a site audit, a monthly report. Pick the most repetitive and annoying one you've got. If it needs SEO data, connect it through an MCP so Claude is working with live numbers. You set it up once, and then it's just there every time. Move 3 is the strategic one. This is the one most SEOs are gonna miss. Stop measuring your AI visibility by mentions alone. Start asking a different question. Can AI actually pull my data and use it? Let me explain. If your content and data are structured and accessible, you become the part of the work that people do inside Claude, which is a much harder spot for a competitor to take from you. ChatGPT started the year as the default, then it made some choices, resulting in a lot of SEOs quietly deciding the tool they trust to do the real work is the one that's actually built for work. The traffic is still small, but the direction is not subtle in any way. I want to be clear that we aren't asking you to switch because of some hype. We're simply encouraging you to move the jobs that actually belong to Claude. Once you do, there are 3 videos below that show you how. We got one on Claude skills for SEO, another on 3 agency tools we built with Claude Code, and a third on the best MCP servers for SEO worth connecting to. If you're getting value from this, subscribe, like, and let me know in the comments what you want next.